Hey, what's good, people? This is episode 197 of the Option Podcast. That guy looks like Benji Andexler.
There it is.
And
Yep,
Andexler. Are you French?
something like that. No, no.
Kidding. We're going to find out. The episode starts right now. Let's go, Benji.
Nothing much. I mean, it's Friday, so I got to get ready. Got a tournament tomorrow, but other than that, I'm just kind of relaxing, hanging out.
Yeah. Happy Friday, dude. What tournament? What are we talking about?
So it's a smaller indoor tournament in Knoxville, Tennessee. So just going out there playing some of the local teams. We have a few teams in like North, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. We all play each other at most tournaments, so it's usually a lot of the same teams.
Yeah. That's actually it's pretty good. It's intimate. The thing I like
It
about
real,
the
yeah.
tournament in Knoxville. They have one in the beginning. Sorry, go ahead.
So, well, it's called the Appalachian Power League, and it's really like it's fun because you play like you would think, oh, I don't want to play all the same teams all the time, but it starts to feel more like a actual sports league
Hmm.
with like you have these like 20 something teams and you all play each other and you know who to play and you know how to get ready and it kind of makes it like a lot yeah, a lot more intimate, really.
Yeah. And the thing I like about Knoxville, and I think you're surprised I know a lot about it, but it is the mixture of professional setting and intimate setting. Like for my guys on the
Yeah.
West Coast, just I want you to appreciate the Labor Day tournament, right? Like it's beer and everyone's having a good time and there's music, but the guys who are not having a good time are the semis and the finals and the score is 10 up, and this whole thing, hey, come play, it's gonna be fun. It ain't fun right now. We're just trying to win. For those of you guys in the Midwest, I bring your attention to the Motherlode, Colorado. Very very intimate place in the mountains. No better place in the world. Last year I was doing color commentary with Randy Stokely, where he and I called
Oh,
we
okay.
called center court the entire weekend. Rolo Vincent, me and Rolo. So you're going there this over the weekend. You,
Yeah.
my man, I want to say something really cool about you because we could talk about a lot of things, and eventually I'd like to pick up our conversation from the Pottstown Rumble and some of those other
Yeah.
tournaments that we had a great conversation before we came on the podcast. But before I forget, I wanted to compliment you on your ability. Just watching the sample size of beach, because I can watch indoor players, and a lot of setters look alike if they're doing the right thing. Like high
Yeah.
level setters are supposed to look alike, right? Because
Yeah.
that's how you're supposed to play. But your ability or your muscle memory or just your training habits of taking care of the little things are way beyond your years, young man. You and for everybody listening to the podcast, just stay with us. We're not gonna roll off this guy's resume. We're gonna unpeel it as we talk. But I really like that you like your setting, right? For beach, you get around the ball, shoulders to the pole if you can, right? Because some people, the West Coast, they're kind of doing this,
They're always
and
over
they're
the
and
shoulder and
yeah,
yeah.
well, they're and you can do it another way, and you're accurate, but you're doing something called I call eliminating the margin for error. Meaning, like, if I set this way to my partner, right? I got mad skills, I can do it, but the margin for error now is going to be tight
Yeah.
because of where my shoulders are, right? Or behind his head. And for anyone listening, all of these things have happened to you. No matter what level you play, it's even at the highest level, that's happened to you. So
All the time.
I saw a little bit of Miles Partain when I was watching your beach games, and his ability to take care of the little things, just things that great skill players take for granted. And is this is and where do you get that from? I guess right. Is there a question here?
I mean,
Where do you get that from?
uh well, I play a lot. Like I haven't playing for a very long time. It's like maybe 2.5, 3 years. But like I'm like 3, 4 times a week minimum. I'm like peppering with myself in the house, carrying a ball everywhere. And it's just like with that much repetition, you build like little habits and little ball control things that help you so much. Like the mundane parts that you do, like just like passing a ball to the wall in the house for like half an hour, it
Yeah.
builds platform work, it builds angles, like it does all this stuff. I mean, it just helps.
So you hear this, your neighbors and your parents are hearing boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom,
Oh,
boom. All
the
night.
amount of times I
It's
hear,
like, is somebody having sex? It's like, no, this kid's bumping the ball to the wall. And they're like, oh, I get it.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
And
amount of times I'm like just playing and I hear my mom downstairs. She's like, Benji, stop. I'm like, okay, okay, okay.
at least to her, it's a familiar sound. It's one of them good problems,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Here's the other problem: fingerprints on the ceiling. Right? You're practicing your four-step approach, right? And if you have a ceiling that's like 9 feet or whatever, or if you have a ceiling that's 8 feet, you're trying to elbow it, right? Or if
Yeah.
it's, where I grew up, I had a ceiling that was 9 feet, so I couldn't. My best jump was 10-8, so I could like forearm it. But even when I moved out and came back, I'm like, they didn't paint this house. It's still there.
Well, so the crazy part is we have like a hallway in my house and we put up like I think it's a pickleball net between the two walls and we play. So you'll see like ball marks on the walls and on the doors and like it's like it almost leaves a mark like whenever we play.
Yeah. Actually, while we're here, and just to give our audience a full appreciation, at least the audience watching the video version of this, and for those of you, I say welcome. And for the audio version, for those of you stuck on the 405 watching this, I feel sorry for you. The 405 is the fifth ring of hell, and I might wish that on my worst enemy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's some things I want on my worst enemy. But let's take a look at some. I have a highlight reel I saw that you put up. I thought it was really cool. So this. I'll turn the music down a little bit.
Oh, this is an old one too.
Yeah. No, but I want the audience to appreciate the little things, right? Oh, sorry, you're at the net? Nice. This is an old one, you're right.
I have a much newer one you can check.
Yeah.
That's probably better too.
But watch the footwork.
like,
If this
even-
is an old, mind you, this is an old one. And he's in the you're in your PJs, right? In your red PJs?
Yeah, yeah.
So watch the footwork and watch the patience, right? You're not exploding too early. You have a little bit of a hold on your platform that's nice. Your turn, the footwork and the upper body turn is nice. Here's a little head fake. See the hold? Nothing J-hooked. And mind you, you're right. This isn't the video I wanted us to watch. This is something else. So maybe I'll get back to that on the edit, and maybe I'll just put something.
Yeah, well, even
something
between
on the
then
edit.
and like, even between then and like the video I made like 5 months later.
Yeah.
So I started working with a new coach,
Okay.
and he's super big on like defense first, platform work, and like as you said, kind of patience. He's always like, you keep your heart rate down, you focus on the game, and you make sure your angles are right. Like that's the big things he preaches. And just in that time, like every tournament, I feel like I'd go like maybe a 3 or 4 point run where I'd like shank a few balls on serve receive, and I was like, why does this keep happening? And I started working with him, and I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I shanked one. Instead of being like, why did I do that? I'm like, next ball, what could I have done? And then like focus.
Yeah.
And that helped me so much between like, because I was even in that video, I was a little jumpy on serve receive, and like I've kind of just like locked it down more.
Is it about selective amnesia? Meaning just remembering the plays that were good and forgetting the plays that are bad?
He didn't say forget the plays because he wants you to remember, but it's not like I should have done this. It's like I will do this.
Got it.
Like you don't think oh my God, why didn't I run down that high line? You're like, next time that happens, I will run down the high line.
Right.
It's more about like, yeah.
I also think that's the difference between giving up 3 points and before you finally work it out, or just siding out the very next play, right? Like how many times have you seen someone just get frustrated over their serve receive, and by the time they recover, they've already given up.
It's too late.
Yeah, well, too late in some cases. At the high level, it's too late, right? In some cases, you just dug a hole that's really hard to get out of against a team that's probably evenly matched, or probably that you're even better than. Who knows, right? So I really like that. And the other thing I like, what's your coach's name? Who's your coach?
His name's Varun.
Okay, is he from North Carolina too?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, It's weird because I've never been in North Carolina, but I got a lot of roots there. I got a lot of friends. Like we were talking about Adam Roberts
Yeah.
before the podcast. Adam spent almost a decade in New York, right? So, and
Is he
Adam,
North or South Carolina? Because I know he has a place in South Carolina
South
near
Carolina,
Myrtle that he
right?
usually
Myrtle
spends time
Beach.
with.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He's what you call a mensch. In New York, a mensch is someone that commands the highest respect. Like Adam, if you don't have a shirt, he'll take off his shirt and give it to you, like not knowing that he's gonna be
Yeah.
cold, because he doesn't think about those things. He just does it, and I don't know. That goes a long way. That's kind of golden
Yeah.
when you have someone like that, and I really really appreciate that. So what got you? Remind me again. How'd you get started into the sport? Was it girls? What's going on?
So it was like COVID. We couldn't do any indoor sports, and like as it started to die down, my sisters played. My mom used to play. My mom and dad met playing, and so they were like, "Let's go play like a small 4v4 tournament, like just for fun."
Okay.
And I was like, "Oh my god, why are they dragging me to this? Like, why do I have to go?" And then I got there, and I was like, "I kind of like this."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like throwing myself at the ground. I'm not doing very well, but I'm like, I enjoy this. So I start looking. I'm like, what clubs can I go play for? Like, I want to do this more. So I pick up beach and indoor slowly, and then I'm like, I really like this. And so it's kind of just become my life. Like I got to points where I would play like 17, 18 days in a row, and I was like, no more, or like, I don't want to stop. I just want to keep going.
Oh, you got infected with the volley bug.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, listen, you talked about COVID and you know that I mean they have a vaccine that may or may not work for that, but there's no vaccine for what you got. There's no cure for what you got. It's permanent. You have the
It really is.
volley virus. And you know what? You don't need drugs for it, and you don't need to see a doctor.
Yeah.
It's one of what we call one of those good problems. Congratulations, you're infected, and and the story you're telling is very very similar to a lot of people how volleyball happened to them. I'm not. I could get into mine, but today I ain't making it about me. Today is about you, my man. So, why'd you become a setter? That's a good question.
That is okay.
You got
So
because you got kind
I
of a cannon too, you know. I watched you play a little indoor.
so I like hitting. I love hitting,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm like to play at the next level. I don't have the size for it,
Oh, that's what they tell you. Yeah.
and I'm 5'10", and it wasn't just that. I would I feel like with setting I can kind of do both.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when I played, I don't get as much with my new team, but with my old libero, I would tell him I was like, throw me up on the net. I don't care if I'm front row. I don't care if I'm back row. I'll go up with one.
My man.
If I get someone, I'm setting it. If I don't, I'm throwing it down.
Yeah.
And I've just enjoyed setting. And like even out on the beach, I would always like before I started playing indoor, I was like trying to jump set and try and do all this stuff. And I was like, I enjoy this. So I decided that that would be the best use of what I could do.
When did you realize that setting was more than just having good hands?
Ooh, it was
I'm speaking
it
from
was
one
bet-
setter to another, so
it was between my 16s and my 17s year. My 16s year, it was my first year setting. It was very poor. I had good hands and I would pretty much just throw up a high ball. But like I wasn't spreading an offense. I didn't really have the middles in place at the time, so I couldn't really run the middle. And then I went into my 17th year and I was like, I got some athletes this year. Like if I want to go to work, I have to like learn to set the fast right side ball and set the gap and like find my outsides fast so they can beat a middle, you know? And so then I started like court checking, it became a whole thing where I'm like, how far can I take this? Like how many skills can I learn to do?
yeah, and it's always going to be the most challenging position, right?
Oh,
And for me, I was in Germany and I went to the Olympics just to watch USA play Spain and Barcelona. I mean, USA played Japan crazy 5-set match. For anyone watching the podcast or listening, just Google YouTube search USA versus Japan. It's the craziest match you'll ever see in your life. It's a match that had two yellow cards that was supposed to be a red, which should have given Japan the match. They didn't. They never penalized them. USA came back. There was a foot fault that should have ended the game for USA. Turns out he was behind it. Someone blew the whistle in the crowd. Everyone stopped playing. Japan kept playing. It was a replay. It was just this crazy thing that ended in this chaotic, and I was there for that match. And there was a coach for the Netherlands. His name is Mario Trebic, who later became my volleyball mentor. He was the head coach of the Netherlands, and I ran into him, and he saw me play a little bit, and he says, "You're 6'1", you have a 6'8" wingspan, you're left-handed, you should set." So I converted took years, from outside hitter to whatever, and I watched videos of a guy named Jeff Stork, who won the gold in '88 or whatever, and the bronze in '92. We had similar build. He was bigger, but we did a lot of the same things. And then, yeah. And you know what's crazy? Like, if you have someone you idolize or watch video, right, and try to mimic them or whatever, and then you meet them in real life, you become starstruck. Like, look, I'm from New York. You could see Jay-Z or Madonna walking her dog or whatever, and it's cool. You see him all the time, right? And then I see Jeff Stork, because I was at LMU with John Mayer, and we played Northridge at the time. And I scream, "Jeff Stork!" And he looks at me and goes, "Oh," like this face, like, "Oh, God," But I promise you, I wasn't too much of a puppy. Was there a setter that you kind of emulated? I guess that was how it shaping my question.
So it used to be that I'd watch a lot of like high level club and like the top teams, and I was like that's the level I want to get to.
Yeah.
I would watch a lot of Andrew Rowan. I watched a lot of professional, obviously, but I'm like that's the next level. Like I can worry about that when it comes. And I would watch a lot of him, and then I kind of started watching more and more, and I realized it's like setting is so unique. Like, why am I trying to imitate something else when I can like piece together a game of my own and kind of like use that to my advantage? Because like if you're playing like someone else, there's going to be people who have figured out how to beat that person.
100%.
But like if you're you, they have to figure out a whole new set of like, how do we cover what he's going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, and look, for me being a lefty setter was great. It was golden. You can disrupt a lot of defenses. If you watch Miles play those 2 years at UCLA, he was one of the best offensive players as a setter. The guy didn't. Yeah. He doesn't. It's very much like who is he? Like Westbrook from the NBA. He never saw a three he didn't like, right? He just kept shooting, jacking them up. Miles didn't see an option that he didn't like. Miles has never seen an option he didn't like. And if you watch like Seaside and when he played with his brother, he was taking the option from like the 20-foot line. Dude was ridiculous. And I keep mentioning him because I watched a ton of video on you, and I see just these amazing similarities. And I do have a vision in my head that you're going to be around where he is now in about 3 years. I see it. I also see it because people of your size, from 5'11" to 6'3", those are the players that wind up being MVP. Those are the players that wind up being all-tournament team, first team. Those in the land of giants, where everyone keeps telling you you're not big enough. The ones, have you noticed there's this historical pattern of normal-sized guys being there at the end? How about I just give you an example? How about Bruno, Oscar Schmidt, Alison's partner in Rio, graciously listed at 6'5". I don't think he's much taller or shorter than you. Gold medal, right? Taylor Crabb won AVCA Player of the Year at Long Beach State. His team had a losing record. All right, and he got AVCA Most Player of the Year. Sorry, go ahead. You have someone.
No, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
How tall do you think I am?
I think you're 5'10" or 5'11".
5'10" on the dot.
Yep, but still growing. You're 17.
So I turned 17 a month ago, which is weird because I'm a senior.
Yeah, you'll get another inch, or two.
I hope so.
You probably grew 6 inches in 14, right? Something like that. You had that spurt.
It was later than that. I think I never hit a growth spurt. I had a very steady growth. It would be like 2 inches a year from like 14 to now. So it wasn't ever really like shoot up.
You're in great shape. Yeah. For my New York fans that are listening, I'll bring your attention to Elvis Rodriguez. Elvis is 5'9". He played for a club, an adult club called Crail that won nationals in 1992. He was first team as an outside hitter, 5'9". And stayed with the team, but eventually became a libero and became, best libero, this and that. Played Division III at Hunter College in New York. And they were the only team to make the EIVA semifinals or finals. They're Division III, and they're in the Division I EIVA semifinals. They were 38-3. All Dominicans, of course. No one on the team spoke English, and I bet you none of them went to class because it was just 1 year, and after the 1 year they were gone. So they didn't go to class. If they're all gone, they didn't go to class, bro. So I think the point I'm trying to make, and I want you to keep your thought. Don't listen. Your height is a reality, but what people tell you and what you can and can't do with that height is not. That's that's you shape that. You're in charge of that. You're responsible for it, so you got to be in charge of it. How'd you like for you to be responsible for something someone else is calling the shots on? That's bull. I'm sorry. Did I say bull jive? It's a kid. We got kids. Sorry. So, what was your thought? Because I didn't want you to lose that, and I didn't want you to.
I have two things now. There were schools like nearby that my college is gonna play.
Mm-hmm.
That would they wouldn't tell me, but they would tell like my coaches or something straight up. They're like, we're not taking him unless he hits 6 foot. Like there's zero chance we take him. If he hits 6 foot, we'll take him. We'll probably redshirt him. This happened like a few times, and so now I'm going to NGU, which is like you said, instead of Dominicans, it's a bunch of Puerto Ricans. Like it's like half the roster is a bunch of Puerto Rican kids, and they're all like super fiery. And now I'm like, I want to play these
skill set Nazis, right? Skill set Nazis too, right?
Yes.
Ball control. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now I get to play these schools that said that about me, and I'm like, I want to show them.
Good.
Like, schedule us. I want to play you.
Good. And you know what the cool thing is? You might be part of a generation of people that might put that conference on the map, right? The conference is new. So they knew they're going to get their ass kicked a lot. And they knew they were going to be considered the weakest conference in the NCAA. But things change. When I came up, the strongest conference was Mountain Pacific and PSF. And now, in my opinion, and people will get mad, but they're not even the second best. The best one right now is the Big West. That's Long Beach State, Hawaii, Irvine. And the second best is the MIVA, which is Ohio State, which is Lewis University, and which is Loyola Chicago.
That's Princeton too,
and
right?
Ball State. No, Princeton's EIVA. That's Sam Schweitzky.
Okay.
And
so
Princeton,
that's the other.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is the crazy part about this school is, in 2022 they did win the Conference Carolina. They went to the national championship.
And they beat Princeton the first match. I was there.
And they beat Princeton 3-1.
I was there, and I was very surprised.
And no one. Well, yeah, that's how everyone felt. But it's like, I think so. What I'm loving to see now. There's so many upsets in the NCAA, especially this season. It's been crazy.
Yep.
Like no one can get a solid first ranking.
Right.
Because like the talent is spreading thin. We're getting more and more volleyball players around the country. We're getting more and more athletes.
Yeah.
And now they're not just all starting to go to Hawaii and UCLA and Long Beach. You're starting to see these really high level guys going to like Ohio State or like Pepperdine or like schools that have been historically good but not great, and now they're starting to see these great athletes go there.
A little history lesson for everybody. In the last 10 years, or in the last 12 years, 6 of those were MIVA. 6 of the NCAA champions were MIVA. This is the decade of the repeat champs, right? It's two for Hawaii, 2 for Long Beach State, 2 for Ohio State, 2 for UC Irvine, and 2 for Loyola Chicago. And then before that, the one before that was Ohio State again. So it's not what you think. And another history lesson, this is the cool thing about Princeton and NGCU, right? Or NGU, right? NGU coming into the NCAA tournament that year in 2022 beat a Princeton team that had to beat Penn State to get in.
Yeah.
And Penn State at that time was ranked number 3. So the problem is I believe you only have 7 spots at that time for the NCAA. So it's 5 conference winners and 2 at-large bids. So Penn State got screwed out of the at-large bid, and they didn't win the division. So Princeton won because they same reason as NGU, right? The conference champion goes there, and everybody's like, oh, this, I can't believe this team's here. And I'm like, well, first of all, they won the first round, and second of all, things change. Things change. Like the MPSF, I'm surprised. There were some years I'm surprised they let one team in, you know, and that's the conference that has USC and UCLA. Now UCLA is better now, right? But I'm my eye test, I've been doing this for a long time, says that they weren't even the second best conference. But the point I was trying to make is you might be part of a transitional period. And this is how it works. Just educating everybody, and you can stop me at any point. On the West Coast, if you see a good West Coast team, it's talented players. If you see good teams in the Midwest, it's the coaches. If you see good teams on the East Coast, it's the immigration population. How am I doing so far?
That's pretty accurate.
Sounds about right.
I think definitely in the Southeast. If you go to like Pennsylvania and up there, you'll probably find more like the Chicago clubs.
Yep.
Have a lot of good teams. They have a lot of good players.
Yeah.
New York has some really good players. So my current beach partner is from Long Island.
Really? What's his name?
He's a dog. Aiden Delorier. I think I'm pronouncing his last name right. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's a ripper of an outside.
Okay.
And it's like, you would never expect someone that good. If I was like 6'4" outside, bangs balls, you'd be like California.
Right.
Or like Chicago, Hawaii. But you never say like, oh, an hour and a half out in Long Island, you know?
So true. Well, I think people adapt their new homes and people ignore the fact that they came from New York. Like Therese Cannon's from New York. All right. She won the AVP with Sarah Sponsel a couple of years ago. Jacek, who was like our first team All-American at Cal Northridge, is a kid from Queens, New York. Bryant High School at that, right? Sam Schweitzky, the head coach at Princeton, played at Hunter High School in New York, Upper East Side, and won a PSAL championship there. I was there when he lost, because he lost in the previous finals. And what he did was he locked himself, because this is like your mentality. He locked himself in a locker room that had a combination lock so no one can get in. So it was at Hunter College. I was a student for a cup of coffee, like Elvis, right? I was one of those cup of coffee kids, and I went in there and I told him, "Hey, look, you're gonna win next year, and 20 years from now, I'll coach here and I'll win one too, right?" So the next year he won, and then 20 years later I won as a coach. So Sam and I, we know each other. And when he was 15, he would play on the Central Park hard courts with the Dominicans, adults, 30-year-old Dominicans. He's 15 years old, and very much like you're one of them. Like you're 17, but you're one of them because you can ball, and you don't bring the freaking habits that bad habits that they developed over years that they can never tear down and rebuild. Some of these guys, and at every level, they can never. You are very, very fortunate, and it was really just about having a good coach. That's why the first question I asked in this podcast is, "Who's your coach?" You know. So something you want to say about playing with adults and just maybe learning from them a little bit, and the mutual respect that happens back and forth on your beach game. We're going to talk. We're just address in terms of the beach, because juniors is juniors.
So I'm playing. Well, that brought up another point. I'm playing the adult nationals in Ohio this year. So I'm really excited about that.
What?
I'm setting for a team of like a bunch of adult ex-college players.
Okay.
And they were like, we don't know any setters in the area. Do you want to come to Ohio?
Yeah.
So I'm going up there for that, which is really fun. But like,
wow.
I think
nice.
So I think I've finally gotten to a point outdoor where like most of the adults don't see me as a kid, in the good and in the bad. Right. Like in Myrtle, I'm not going to say who, I was playing someone, and I used to be notorious for trash talking. I've cut it down a lot. Mm-hmm. It used to be a big problem for me. And so I think he was trying to get me riled up so I could, because like he was getting beat pretty bad. and I took a swing, and he was like, nice roll shot. I'm like, I was like, you're a grown man, and I'm like, and I'm the one being the mature one right now. So I didn't say anything. I
It
just
was
played.
Troy Field.
I
No, it
imagine
was
that
Troy
would be insane.
Field. No, I'm kidding.
It
No, I
was
know
not,
Troy, and I
but
love Troy, but I'll talk
it
about him
was,
later.
and I was just like, I mean, it means that he's not seeing me as a child anymore,
Yeah.
but it's also like, and then also in the good, I feel like I can go out there and I'm like, they're not talking to me like trying to explain like, oh, why do you do this? Why do you do that? They're like, what do you see?
Mm-hmm.
Like treating me like an equal, which is really nice, especially at like bigger grass tournaments. I feel like I can walk around and like be part of most conversations because I've spoke with or interacted with a lot of these like higher level guys at some point.
Right. And it's also about the people playing against you trying to figure out a way to crack the code, right? And I hate to bring Partain up, and I only bring him up because I was coaching Jeff Samuels when he made his first main draw at 15 years old with his brother, no less, who was 17. This is Hermosa Beach. It's their first main draw, and Michael Brunsting, who I was not coaching at the time or coaching with. I was only coaching Jeff Samuels. I was like, I'm your one fan. And he got all offended. He didn't get the joke. I'm like, you don't understand. These kids went through the qualifier and their crowd size got bigger. When people find you're 17 years old and you're in a qualifier and you start winning matches, you know what happens? The people following your games keep going and they cheer every little thing you do. You serve a ball, it hits the top of the tape, falls back on your side, they go, "Aw." You know what I'm saying? So there's this thing where you could do no wrong. So on the other end, and this is the point I was trying to make, adults find themselves losing the kids. And what happens in the middle of the game, it's like, I can't believe this kid's, I'm old enough to be his father, and I'm losing to him. And when they start thinking that way, they lost because they're not thinking about volleyball. They're not thinking about volleyball. And by the way, that Partain's game, the scoring freeze saved our. They're at 14-11, game 3, and Jeff used the scoring freeze to come back and win. But the team that beat him, Avery Drost and Frischman, were like, no,
Yeah.
you're a man. I'm spanking you. They beat him 2-0 because the approach they had was, I'm not falling into this kid.
Yeah.
So right now, you do have an advantage where it's the reason why that guy got mad at you. It's not like he was trying to get you to talk back and stir up the pot, because that doesn't strike me as the type of guy that can sustain that emotional high. That's the kind of guy that's going to get 3 points on the high and give up 5 or 6 on the low. Big waves crash, brother. Bro, small waves, you can go from Hermosa to Manhattan Beach on small waves. So if you're talking crap as a young person, just as advice, and we can close the chapter on this, celebrate. But don't know your opponent, right? The USA, like watching DeFalco have this elongated scream against Brazil, that's stupid. That's like giving Popeye spinach, right? Italy, Russia, Brazil. Let sleeping tigers lie. You know why? Because they're fighting with each other. You don't want them to put their differences aside to F you up. So the advice I would give you, keep that, because it galvanizes you and your partner, but small waves, bro.
Yeah.
Small waves. Do you get that? Or do you do that? Or are you doing that? Am I preaching to the converted right now already? Am I in the church full of Christians right now?
It got
I'm
to the
preaching
point,
a saint. Go ahead.
My partner wanted to say something, and I was like, if we don't say anything and he keeps going, he looks horrible.
Yep.
And we beat him.
Oh my God, that's a double win.
It's a double win.
Emotionally,
like,
that's a double win. So you got Slunks and sorry, go ahead. No, please finish. I gotta let you get a word in.
About the national teams where it's like common enemy, like don't let them rile up.
Mm-hmm.
The school I'm going to is like notorious for talking because they're a bunch of like fiery Puerto Ricans.
Yes.
And so it gets to the point where like they'll play other schools that are supposed to beat them, and the coach is flat out saying like, you don't say anything to them, because as soon as you say something, they start jumping higher and hitting harder, and they'll come back with like 10 times as much.
Yeah,
because they're notorious for how they talk.
Yeah,
like it's like the one team in the NCAA you don't want to start start talking to because they're coming back harder.
Like Hawaii, they get fired up for that.
Yeah.
You say something across in that, Hawaii gets fired up. Long Beach State,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? You still got some Cowboys there. Like TJ DeFalco, when he
Yeah.
played at Long Beach State, my guy
Oh.
Lewis Richard, the only African American on that team, I coached with him at Evolution, and he's quiet as a mouse. So they had that the styles that complement each other. You know what I'm saying? They won that second year. Good kid, man. You'd love him. And so you got Slunks behind you. What's up, man? Does Chris, my man, Chris? I've been trying to get him on the podcast. Chris Remus, right? Slunks is your sponsor. Who else?
It's them right now. It's Victory insoles. Have you heard about the insoles that like the carbon fiber insoles?
Yeah.
So they sponsor me, and I love them. Like people always ask me if they're worth it. I like them a lot because when you're jump setting, it's like up and down nonstop, and your feet start hurting, and like your calves start hurting, and it's just so helpful. But yeah, them and Slunks, and I love Slunks.
Yeah. Good for you, man. And you know the cool thing is you're going to be one of those guys that doesn't promote sponsors that you don't use yourself. And there goes my stupid iPad. Let me unplug this. You know what I'm saying? Like Slunks,
Yeah.
it's a sponsor, but you're wearing them. The insoles,
Yeah.
you're going to use them, right? Like me, if I'm using Dollar Shave, right? If that's my sponsor, guess what? I'm using them. I picked that up from Joe Rogan. Like as a podcaster, there's nothing wrong with having sponsors, but there's something that's organic and natural that you're promoting something that you not only believe in, but you set by example, so I certainly appreciate that. 40,000 followers on TikTok. I'm looking down at this piece of paper, man. What's going on, man? It's about the kids?
I just feel like on the girls' side, there's a lot of girls like they all have accounts and like they have their audience. And I go on TikTok and I'm watching videos and it's like there's no junior guys, there's zero beach volleyball guys making videos. And I'm like, there needs to be like a community. And it started with me just like making videos because I thought they were funny. And then a few of them blew up and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like this could be something. So I just kept making videos and like people always ask me if it's hard. It's like most of the time they take me like a minute and a half to make.
Yeah.
And it's just something that like popped into my head and I'm like, this is really stupid, but like it's funny. I like it.
Well, the cool thing is that level of content creation gives you two ways to go. One, you can continue to do it and continue to build your following, or two, it gives you a platform to do other things for volleyball or whatever mission statement into your adulthood that you decide to do, right? Like YouTube, I have 32,000 subscribers, but that's 100% from content, right? I'm doing a partnership with Be Better Media, and like her people were like, I guess they're trying to give me advice on how to do my podcast, and they're like, what's your most viewed video? And I was like, my podcast or content? They're like, whatever, just give me a number. And I said 5.7 million. They're just like, oh, what? They said 5.7 million. I said 5.7 million. They said for one episode. I said no, not the podcast. The podcast is 40,000. That's my most viewed. I had a military a contractor talking about veterans benefits, and everybody in the country wanted to know, like, wait, I get that. If I served, I'm eligible for that. So that that caught traction. But like you, content creation. I get a camera, go to the beach, start calling matches. That's how I got to call matches. That's when I moved here. Look, I was a color commentator for 6 years in New York. I did the CUNY Championship, but I moved here, bought a camera, and just started talking shit behind the camera and got noticed. Casey Jennings, Carrie's husband was like, that guy's got balls, and introduced me to some people, and it was it was all gravy from there. Sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I was gonna say before I found out about coming on this or like any of that, I went back to look at your channel and I was like, oh, I've watched like a lot of these videos, like especially the commentary ones. And I remember thinking to myself when I was watching them, I'm like, this commentary is like, he's just ripping into them. Yeah. And I loved it. And I was like, okay, I guess whenever AVP events happen, I'm gonna come here and watch more because
Well, there are people that will never come on my podcast because they take that too personally, and that's fine. And for that kind of person, I don't want you anyway. But then there's a people that will always come on. Kristen Nuss came on 3 times. Like Theo Brunner is like a friend now. He's on 4 times, and they come on because all of my criticism is volleyball related. I attack volleyball people. I punch volleyball people with volleyball. They have to.
Yeah.
You got to be able to have thick skin. That's one. Two, and it has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, believe me, the people will post on my thing. What are his credentials? Oh, where is he from? Who's he think? So you know what I'm saying. So if anyone thinks I'm incorrect, I'm gonna hear it in the comment section. If I don't get a comment on it, they're not saying ignore this guy. They're like, he's right, but they're too scared to post it because they don't want to make enemies from people that they might be a fan of who they think or whatever. So. So from there, I called all the Pepperdine's home games. I called the Big West Championship in 2019, Hawaii versus Cal Poly. AVP New Orleans, I called center court when Evan Corey and Logan Weber beat Rafa Rodriguez and Piotr Marciniak. Atlantic City, I was court 2. Well, Cameron Earn was court 1. I got court 2. So I got my gigs, the Mother Lode, NVL. Yeah, and my dream, the only thing left in the bucket list, I want to do an indoor NCAA game, maybe with Robert Sparrow, and I want to do an FIVB game, indoor or beach. I don't care. Those are the two only things left on my bucket list before I can say I did it all. So so I'm glad you picked that up. Because me, I just took a chance. You move here, I knew nobody, right? And they didn't care. I had 19 years experience as a professional and a NCAA coach, So, I did a lot of good things in New York. But you're right. Like the talent, the Latino talent, that's going to be a challenge for you this year. You got guys who want. You got to let a dog bark a little bit. It's going to be a challenge this year. Well, you as a setter, you're going to have their back anyway.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you play indoor sixes, right? And if you talk crap, you have to know the other 5 people. What happens the next play? You say something across the net, the ref, warns the both of you guys. The next play, if your team gets aced, then that's not the team you got to do that with, right? Because they're gonna use that at you as an excuse.
Yeah.
I was off my game. But if the next play is, blah blah, guess what? Then that's the team you could dog with. I keep using the word dog. Don't lose the dog. Never ever lose the dog. I'm just saying that smaller waves get you to victory. That's all. That's all I was trying to say. And again, it depends on who you play against.
So one of the few times I've been good all indoor season. We played a team recently, and multiple different people were like, if you start talking, you'll get in their head. And so I went to my coach. I'm like, Coach, I'm not going to say anything through the net. It's all going to be implicative. And they're like, all right, go for it. And I don't think I've ever talked more. I would turn around. I would look at the people watching or look at the bench. And it fired my team up. My right side, I've never seen him play like that.
Came from the dead. Came back from the dead.
and everyone was like ripping. And I'm like, is this what I have to start doing to get you guys pumped up? Every game?
Okay. Warm up my voice before every game.
Yeah. So that was really fun. But instead of that, I started heckle. So I heckle a lot at outdoor tournaments. Any game, So when I was in Hermosa, they had a medal ceremony for the junior nationals. I didn't do the medal ceremony, but I showed my medal to get in, and we got to sit on the sand on the courts.
So good.
And and it was Trevor playing Taylor, and I was like, this is what I want to heckle. And he'd come back to serve right next to us, and I would start talking about. I was like, how does it feel your partner left you? All this to Trevor. And everyone was like, Benji, you're gonna get us kicked out. I'm like, this is so much fun.
Not to Trevor. Trevor would never get you kicked out. Trevor loves that. But go ahead.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
No, they thought
anyone whose last name is Crab
and kick us out.
But you heard anyone whose last name is Crab, they're cool with it. Trust me.
And I was like, you don't understand. This is what they enjoy. Players like this enjoy that. Mm-hmm. That's the fun behind it.
Yeah.
So I love heckling, or Pottstown games in general. I was watching a center court match. It was so they have the whole thing of last year's winners get first game on center court.
Yeah.
We were watching that game because it just started, and the winners went down 4, and I was just like, are we sure these guys won last year?
Yeah.
I was like, get a different game on the court.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my mother hates it. She's like, Benji, shut up. I'm like, I'm having fun.
Good for
So yeah,
you.
I'd love to like announce something. That's what I like about the Pottstown announcers. They just tear into you.
Yeah. Well,
It's
good for
great.
you because you realize you're in your moment. Like for me, I seem like this calm guy now, and like I'm speaking up from here like an a-hole on the little kids. I'm telling them how to be better people. But the fact of the matter is, I was the single worst crap talker you have ever met in your life, because back then we were allowed to curse at people. We were allowed. I mean, it took a lot for someone to give you a yellow card. Or
Yeah.
you really, the refs just separates you a little bit and this and that. But man, I'm like, is that all you got? If that's all you got, get your free T-shirt and get out of here, man, because it's not gonna end well for you. Or like if I block someone cross, and then next play they go line and I block them line. I'm like, that's not original, guys. First you go cross and you go line. Are you gonna come up with something creative? Are you really watching the block? Are you guessing? So yeah,
Yeah.
and that. I don't know where it comes from for you, but me, it was just our Brooklyn nature. Like you grew up playing basketball in New York, you're gonna talk junk. Football, you're gonna talk a little bit. You literally have to fight every day to get respect from your peers. Where I grew up,
Yeah.
Flatbush Avenue is not an easy place to grow up. Not the roughest neighborhood, but because I'm not about that life.
Yeah.
Yeah, overseas, you know, playing Samoans is really scary because all of those guys are like 6 feet high, 5 feet wide, right? So when they tell you, they're like, stay down, white boy. And I'm like, I got a decision to make before I say something back. I'm like,
Yeah.
so who you calling white boy? Shut up. Shut up, man.
That's the
Let's
that's
talk.
the other thing about
Yeah.
volleyball is like it's like no one's gonna fight. Like let's be realistic. The most you're
Thank
gonna
you.
get is like maybe someone like giving too firm of a handshake or pulling someone, and you're never
No.
like I don't think I've been playing long at all. But with how much I play, if I play in any other sport, I definitely would have seen a fight by now.
100%.
So
Well,
like
yeah. But it's
you're just
know
talking
your
for the sake of
opponent.
talking.
Know your
Yeah.
opponent. Look, in the South Bay, I had a kid stare me down as a coach, first thing I looked at to see where his parents were. All right, his parents think that's okay. So when the game was over, I said, "Bring it in, guys," to the other team. And they're just like, "What is?" I said, "Bring it in," and I said, "I like what you're doing. I think it's cool, whatever. But when you go to nationals, be careful, because you might play a team from the Bronx, right? If you stare them down, that means you're fighting, and they will fight you. You know what I'm saying? You haven't seen it yet, but again, go. There's a team, Paul Mitchell. All right, adult national team, Paul Mitchell. Long reputational team, very very good out here. They played a team called Bamesa, which is supposed to be North Carolina, but it's not. It's Washington Heights, New York, and only two guys on that team speak English. They're all from Mocha or Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. I set for that team for 2 years. I have never been to nationals because I was a kid. I'm from New York that couldn't pay his own way. So I've set with them, and when I found out that they almost had a brawl at nationals, and then later on, Paul Mitchell's like, "Hey, let's go. We'll buy you some drinks. Let's just talk." They still were like, "No, kiss my ass." They even after the match, it almost started up again at the hotel. So you're right. For the most part, they're not about that life. They're staring like they are, but it's not. Volleyball is not, on a general level, it's not about that life. But when you go to nationals, please know that it's some teams in Florida that got, if you do that, you're fighting. Please know if that team's from the South Bronx. You know what I'm saying? Like Legacy. They seem like a bunch of nice kids, but ooh, be careful. you know. So I wanted to talk about the Pottstown Rumble before I get into talking too much fun, which is really really cool because that's the podcast, right? I want to talk about process and preparation. I want to ask you, as far as when you go into practices. Here's an example. John Mayer. I was at LMU, and I picked up a lot of things from him. When we would have a passing drill, right, or we would have a setting drill, or just like maybe we do something called Warrior or Neville, we would he would either assign you a focus, or you pick your own. So if it's a passing drill, he wants you to go in with a passing focus. For example, holding your platform, straight and simple. straight platform, simple pass. One move to the ball. Beach is more one move if you're not a midline coach like indoor. Sometimes you're a midline coach, and if it's a lollipop, yeah, make the two moves to do that. Got
Yeah.
that, right? And then all the other intricacies, shoulders together, athletic stance, all
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
bullshit coaches teach you. So for your process and preparation, do you have focus-based drills like that? When you go into a setting drill, do, do, do you have your own, do you self-assign a focus, or does your coach assign you a focus? Shoulders to the pole, out of system, shoulders to the net in
So
system, blah blah blah.
I last year I had a much more active coach. He was both years, like last year and this year, I have great coaches. But last year I had a really active coach, and so yeah, it would always be like, he's like, right now, he would be like, finish your set. I don't care if it goes outside the antenna. Like that's what I want you to
Yeah,
focus on because you're having trouble doing that.
good, good.
This year, I think I try to be more of a student of the game, and like I don't just want to do stuff. I want to understand why I'm doing it, and like kind of decide for myself. So I've sort of like, if I'm doing a setting drill, I'm like, who am I setting? Why am I setting this tempo? Like, do I want to put it higher if I'm setting from this close to the net, or do I want to put it lower? So most of the time I'm figuring it out for myself. But do you know Bill Ferguson?
I do. He don't know me,
So
but it's my job to know everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
He coached for my club, and I talked to him about preparation, and he was like, before a tournament, it's like week before intense training, and you go less and less and less, and you're like dialed in on what you want to do that weekend. Like if you're like, I want to find my middles much more in transition, like you work on that, you work on that, you work on that. Day before you don't do anything, and it's just like watch film, prepare yourself, like what version of your setting are you going to show that week? And when he told me about that, I was like that kind of flipped a switch for me, because I'm like, what do I need to fix this weekend? Like what were my shortcomings last tournament, and like what can I work on?
There's nothing in the world like allowing yourself to make mistakes, realizing them, and self-correcting. Because as far as retaining the knowledge and self-correction, I don't know the science study behind that, and I don't really pay attention to the science unless it's something that goes beyond a correlation study. Then I'll pay attention to it. But because at the end of the day, the real scientists are us. We're the coaches, right? We're in the lab throwing crap. Dane Blanton was like, "Oh, so what? You just throw crap on the wall and see if it sticks?" I said, "Yes, yes, Dane. What are you saying, NCAA champ?" So, yeah, but there's nothing in the world. So, guys, learn from this kid. Listen to this podcast. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to do that, and allow the coach to see, okay, I like that. Now let's try this. And just hearing this little sample that you gave me was enough for me to see that you're kind of on your way, and I really appreciate that. Cool. What's one thing fundamentally that you felt like you showed significant improvement on let's just say the last 6 months? Before you answer, you can explore the physical, the 6 fundamentals: passing, digging, blocking, serving, blah, or it can be from the neck up, the muscles between your ears. The floor is yours, my man.
It's a bit of both. As I was talking about earlier, like I used to get into ruts on serve receive, and with my new coach, first 50 minutes of practice, he tosses the ball like 6 feet away from me in 6 different directions. I step to it, I put my platform out, I lift with my legs, and he like micro corrects everything. For 3 months, I did this for the first 50 minutes of every practice, every week. And I was like, and I obviously when I'm doing it, I'm like, this is so boring. This is so boring. And then I go to a tournament, and I'm like, why did I think that was boring? Like, this is perfect serve receive.
Yeah.
And it was like, between the working of the platform physically and like telling myself mentally, like what you need to work on is going to be boring.
Yeah.
So it was more learning, like you're not always going to have fun at practice. Mm-hmm. Like practice is practice. And sometimes you'll have fun, and sometimes you need to work on what you need to work on.
Yep. That also involves good coaching, right? You have your kids pepper for coaches. If you're having your kids pepper for 60 seconds, right? If they're just standing straight up, they're not in the athletic stance, like, a girl just sticking out the booty to like, sticking out the butt to like catch something on their angle, right? If they're doing this, they're facing this way and they're angling the platform here and don't realize their forearms are here. The ball's still going there, but they now invited a bad habit where the ball's going straight up or
Yeah.
behind them, right? Because they're not facing. Then you support every argument for every idiot coach that doesn't believe why pepper doesn't work. Like some coaches don't believe in peppering because it's the drill and this and that, but it's because they fail at their job of what are you doing while you're peppering. Are you are you going into practice like I want to hold my platform more? Let me start. The first drill is 60 seconds peppering, or the first drill is the figure 8 drill, like serve receive or like bowl, whether they're bowling or serving. If you go into that, like you said, every practice, and this is important because I think this is what you're saying, and the more you do it, the less you have to think about it. And now you're not out there trying to play, you're just playing. You're not out there thinking about playing. It's your impulse. It's now your animal instinct. And when that happens from the neck down, all those things from the neck up that have bothered you for years, maybe for months, maybe your whole volleyball life, disappear a little bit at a time. There's no cold turkey to it, but it goes a little bit at a time. How am I doing so far?
No, you're 100% right. And then,
because I ain't trying to tell you about yourself. You're here. No. You can tell you about yourself.
And then another thing mentally that we worked on was like, if especially when you're newer and you haven't had like years and years of experience, when you play those like easy games, you're going to win. You just feel like you're playing better. And then you play like the nerve-wracking games and you're like, why am I playing so bad? Like I was hitting perfect cutties earlier and now I'm playing a hard game and they're missing and they're going out and they're going into the net. And he taught me so much, like keep your heart rate down, like specifically heart rate. It wasn't anything mental, but like, the lower you can keep your heart rate, the less likely you are to make mistakes. Because I guarantee you, if you make a mistake that you normally don't make, your heart rate is pushing like 110, and it shouldn't be.
100%. Yeah. So what's one thing fundamentally or psychologically that you'd like to show significant improvement between now and, let's say, June?
I want to set I think this is very specific, but for me, it's probably the biggest issue I've had. I want to set a more consistent pinball when I'm off the net.
Very good.
I feel like right now I'm working hitters who are like, they're not picky, but they're like, if the ball is tight, they're not like very comfortable swinging. And sometimes I feel like I'm putting them too tight. I really, really, really want to get like all the way to the pin, perfect contact point. Like I want that set to happen because I find my right side really well. I find my middle really well. And then I'm like trying to find them. And it's just like, what's going on?
Yep. Hey, everybody listening at home, I have a question for you guys and we're going to answer this. What's the most difficult set to set in indoor volleyball? Let's give them 5 seconds before me and you do this. Ready? 5 seconds of silence because I want them to think. What's the most difficult ball to set in indoor volleyball? 5 seconds. Grab a drink. I'll go first. It's the 4 ball. It's the go ball. It's the 4 ball, guys. 1 ball is like chicken. You hold it for the middle. Back one, right? The red set, you already got an oppo turning lemons to lemonade. They don't care if you just fling it. The 4 ball is almost going to this diva that's asking for a perfect set for a mediocre swing, right? So what were your thoughts? What's the most difficult ball to set?
I was about to say the same thing, and I'm like, is he going to disagree with me? Oh my, like, it's just.
Do you know how many people don't understand? They're like, these two are nuts. They don't get it.
No, I'm like, people are like, you're really unique. You don't set your outsides. I'm like, I don't like setting my outsides. I don't want to set them. I'm more likely to mess up out there. What are you? Oh my God!
You mean that idiot that hit the ball long and comes to you and says a little higher, please?
Yes. And I'm like, they're like, wow, you just set the middle from like 12 feet off. I'm like, honestly, I got better chances with him than like our queen out there, you know?
Yeah. Isn't it crazy that they're like the wide receivers of volleyball? The freaking divas. They want this perfect set for a mediocre swing. So here's your way around the pin set. In system, coaches teach you square to the net. Yeah. Out of system, Square to the pole. So what very experienced setters do, like you, because you're already I already consider you an experienced setter because you're going to get a free education that says you're good. All right. So, right, that makes you an expert. You're right. You're being recruited to be among the best of the best. So what experienced setters do, the habit, when they move out of the box, the setter's box, they tend to square their shoulders to the antenna. And what happens, the margin for error is tight. And you set something to the pin, and now you got hitters hitting the pin, trying to hit the ball back in, or you have hitters getting jammed on the block whose IQ is high enough to be like, I'm not giving this guy a line on a tight set. I'm just taking my right hand and, throw it down and then smack him with the left. So, so tip. Think about just the habit of pole. Because setters impulsively think the pole, there's too much space. It's not. Because the outside, if you're out of system, the outside's already is not hugging the net anymore anyway. So he's creating his string, or that's a middle things, but I'm using it for outside. Yeah. He's creating his string more off the net anyway. And at your level, you're never gonna have a hitter that needs a tight set to hit the ball straight down. Yeah. You're gonna have a bunch of angry Puerto Ricans. They're gonna turn lemons to lemonade, my dude. Yeah. Ask any Puerto Rican you ever talk to, even on the beach, like Rafa Rodriguez, that dude would hit anything. Rick Amon, who's one of my guys that got me into the beach volleyball. He played with Karchi UCLA. God rest his soul, he passed away 6 months ago. He was one of those guys that can do everything, So Orlando Irizarry lives in Florida. You might have seen him in the Carolinas. He's another Puerto Rican badass. Dache, Angel Dache is Cuban, but he seems like a little PR, right?
Yeah, he has that fire to him.
Yeah.
Well, the other, so I'm like, your outside's going to get double blocks on them. Your middle's always going to have a blocker on him. I'm super big on my oppo better not have a double block.
Right.
Like if I'm setting my right side, he's going to have a solo or I'm not doing my job.
Guys, check out this kid's videos, man. I'm just so impressed. And I wasn't even watching the recent ones. I was watching you when you were coming up. You have like these videos that says class of 2024. So that meant you were significant. You were probably 15 or 16 when you're doing these things. And I love that you have the one thing that setters crave their whole career. Deception and accuracy. I'll say it again. Deception and accuracy. How many times have you watched a game where cool, the setter fooled the block, but he did not deliver trajectory-wise, did not deliver a ball that his hitter can hit. And he's perplexed on why his hitter's getting blocked one-on-one. Because on video, the set looked fine, but trajectory-wise, did it stay in the air and wait, or did it go up and down fast? When you take a closer look from a volleyball player's and coach's perspective, you, my man, have this fantastic combination of deception and delivering something that's deadly accurate. And mind you, that's just juniors. I am so looking forward to what you're going to do in college. Dude, I am so looking forward to that. Listen to me talk. I'm rambling like a fan. I might, you know what? I think I'm going to be a fan. I'm going to take this Buffalo Bills thing. We already lost to the Chiefs. I'm going to put this to the side. And when you start playing for NGU, I'm going to have an NGU mug next time we do this. How about that?
Sounds good. The level of juniors is it's so high nowadays. Yeah. It's insane. Like the amount of freshman setters we have setting at top programs it's nice to see.
It's better coaching. That's
why. Hawaii has a freshman setter. UCLA starting a freshman. He's not a freshman anymore, actually. You're right. But he was starting his freshman year. USC has a freshman setter. The school I'm going to has a freshman setter start. Many.
And
programs.
UCLA won last year with a freshman setter, right?
Yes.
So, kid from Israel or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think he was American.
UCLA last year.
What was the setter's name? I'll look it up.
Andrew Rowan.
While we're doing this.
It was Andrew Rowan.
All right. Cool. All right.
Kid from played for Orange County.
Oh. Wow. Good for them.
Orange County Volleyball Club.
Man, I should know better. You know why? Because when a local player out here does well on the college scene, he's got ticker tape parades, man. So let's talk about the Pottstown Rumble. We had this great conversation, and when we were talking about it, we're like, maybe we should stop now and save some for the podcast.
Yeah.
I said, because I'm going to give you the mic because you are going to tell everybody where it is, when it is, and the weather and all that stuff, because I gotta let the kid talk, right, people? What I said, it is the most grueling volleyball tournament in the sport. And there are dissenting opinions and this and that. Oh, what about this? What about Wapaka? You don't know what you're talking about. But I called it the most grueling tournament in all of volleyball for reasons that I'd like you to lay out. Not to support my argument, but I want you to draw a picture. You're talking to people right now who have never been to this tournament. Tell them where it is. Tell them when it is. Tell them what the weather is. Tell them what. Most important thing is tell them what the rules are. The floor is yours, my man.
All right, so it's June in Pennsylvania, like late June. So you're playing in like 85 degrees. It's in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. It's like 85
but what does
degrees.
It feel like? It feels like 100.
Oh my God, it's humid. You're sweating. It's big court and side out scoring. So you're playing a game to 15 for like an hour and a half. You feel like it's never gonna end. It's volleyball purgatory.
I agree.
It's volleyball purgatory. You get into a run where you're like, it's 7-8 for like an hour and a half. And you're like, oh my God, someone score a point, please. I don't even need it to be us, but just someone break the cycle. Because you're like, is this real anymore?
You gotta like punch yourself awake.
Yeah, it's something else. And if you're playing the triples and the men's, you're playing 3 days worth in this heat, in this humidity. Last year, it was even worse, I think. It was raining. So you're playing in the mud, you're all muddy, like your feet are wet, you're cold, and then the sun comes out and you're hot all of a sudden. It's something else. And I played the co-ed the third day after playing the triples and the men's. Started my first game at 8:30. Last game ended at midnight.
Oh wow!
Had to play 6 rounds to make it to the finals.
Yeah,
like 6 rounds, games to 15, plus 7 games to 11, or it was probably maybe it was 5 games to 11 in pool play. Like, you can't make a comparison for any other tournament.
You really can't,
because it doesn't exist.
Actually, and I got some video on it too. So let's play what the court looks like. So let's just do that. So this is what the court looks like. It's a great center court. Look where the chairs are. Look at the big Pottstown Rumble Hulk guy. Look at the big eagle, right? See the eagle on the right? It makes me want to reach up to the Statue of Liberty, grab her by that schmuck and take a giant squeeze for America.
Well, yeah, that was the year they had to put well, they have to do this every year. It looks like most years, at least every year I've been. You have to put a bunch of wood chips on the ground, or else people slip too much.
Yeah.
Because it's so muddy and it's so used on that center court that it gets almost unplayable if you don't put something down.
So this is last year's. This is Goldsmith and Albrecht, who won the year before. They were the defending champs. Who you were talking about. They won the year before, and they're playing Cody Caldwell. There's our guy. 2-time champ from Loyola Chicago, who, by the way, won Atlantic City in 2022 with David Lee. Indoor player. They played big man ball. And there's Jake, played for Rutgers University. And,
so that's the other thing is Nolan. So Nolan's from the conference I'm playing in.
Yeah.
He played for Belmont Abbey, which is he's one of the guys we had. There's a few more you might know.
100%.
But yeah, we've had some good guys come out, and he's a phenomenal hitter.
Yeah, he really is. And he's also a cool. I mean, look, he's got we talked about him having a chip on his shoulder that looks like he's a cocky dude, but I remember telling you on the phone that It comes from studying theater performance. I believe he was a musical theater guy, or his BFA and his MFA. So you're gonna have a little bit of, you're a straight guy that's behaving like a queen or a diva, which is awesome for the girls in college, of course, right? Because they're like, oh my God, he's in touch with his feminine side, right? Can I make you breakfast? So.
Yeah.
So he's got that. That's disguised as a heightened level of arrogance. I'm not saying he isn't. He is a little bit, but I think the way he carries himself makes it look more like 10 times more than what he really is. Cool guy though. I like him. And he was coaching. He was the head coach there for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember a grass tournament local. He played before he moved to Florida. He played a lot of local tournaments.
Uh-huh.
And he was playing this tall, athletic, like he's foreign, like he has an accent.
Right.
I don't know from where, but he started talking to him because it was like a closer game. And from what I've heard, Nolan never talks, or very rarely will talk.
Yeah.
And he just looks through the net and he goes, do I have to destroy you in another game for you to stop talking? And he just shuts him up. And I was like, I mean, that's pretty much right. Like, if he wants to win against most of the people in North Carolina, that's for sure he's going to.
I will say this about him. If you need him to block, nobody calls him undersized. If you need him to dig, no one says he's too slow. He's the super athlete that just does, I guess, super athletic things. It's exactly what you and I were talking about. People forget he made a finals with Mark Fornicari. I think Mark Fornicari went through half a bottle of vodka that whole tournament. You know what I'm saying? In fact,
Mark's he's a character.
Isn't he? Let me show you what Mark Fornicari brought me when he came in the podcast. Look at this thing right here. I'm going to zoom in on it. This thing. He comes on the podcast. We go like 2 hours and 25 minutes. This thing was left at this much. Let me put my hand there. Like this much. I'm gonna put my finger. We drank that much that whole tournament. And the reason why I met him is because he went off on a referee, and I posted on social media. I'm like, dude, this dude's been drinking, and he was highly offended by the way I was talking about him, to a point where I had to admit I was right, and I ended up apologizing, and he said, hey, all good. And then he, when he came to Hermosa Beach, in studio. But people forget, Pottstown Rumble 2021, he was in the finals with Albrecht.
Yeah.
And they lost to Lucas and Andre Beloff, who we both know brings new meaning to the word jump serve, like outdoor jump serve. This man's got a game-changing jump serve, which is something segue to what I wanted to talk about. How important is the jump serve in Pottstown Rumble?
So I want to make second day of the pro this year. Like that's my big goal for grass, is like all of it's working up to making second day of the pro.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm doing is serving and serve receiving on a big court for the next 3 months. Because that's how you score. Like, because if you miss a serve, it's not a point. It's side out scoring. So if you're ripping tops, like you miss 4, you find 1, they were probably going to side out anyway if you were just lollipopping them.
100%.
So you might as well just go for it.
Now, is it let's serve rule for our fans watching?
Oh, yeah, and no let serves. Can't tape.
That's
which
right.
means half the time, bro, and that gets you into some arguments. Because you'll be serve receiving and you'll see a little tick of the tape just go, shoop, and the ref can't see it, and you're like, ref, I just watched the tape.
Yeah.
Like, it was in my platform. Why else would I have caught it? They're like, I didn't see anything. So that has its own set of issues. But
back in the old days, referees used to had the whistle in their mouth, and on the serve they would put their hand on the top of the tape or the wire. So if something hit it, they would feel it. So that's something a lot of refs on some of the smaller venues would do, because a lot of those refs didn't have line judges or whatever. So they're trying to watch everything, but the hand was a really good thing. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, it's also like the nets are not great. They're all low. They're all sinking into the mud. There's no top tape. There's no bottom tape. If the ball hits the net, it's not rolling out. It's falling. You're
Right.
you're not gonna your indoor coaches teach you like sit under the tape and wait for it low. That's not gonna work.
I have
You have to like pokey it out
right.
or something. It's
We
weird.
have a question. All right. Me and Jim and Benjamin or Benji here have a question for our audience. When was the last time you've seen a grass court net be 8 feet on the sides and 7-11 and 5/8 in the middle? You don't need a referee won't even go out there with a chain. He won't go out there with a chain and measure it. That's a question, a rhetorical question from us to the people listening. Sorry.
Doesn't happen. I mean, not even center court at Pottstown.
Mm-hmm.
I went to play some pickup like a week and a half ago, and I was like, this net's really low, and they're like, it's the best net we have.
Yeah,
It's
but
the best net we have.
But do you see why the same 8 teams make the quarterfinals? Because they operate out of 80% power on their jump or 80% power on their swing, because they know they don't have to jump extremely high to hit straight down in front of the defense if they have to.
Yeah.
And like you said, if there's anything where you see more than 80%, 90%, or close to 100%, it's going to be, say it with us, it's going to be at the service line.
Yeah.
Mark Burek, you know, I interviewed him. He was one of the people that said that he won with Hudson Bates a couple of times. So
That's what won them a big part of that. When Nolan was playing with Tomas, not this last year, the year they won.
Yeah.
Tomas was going back and he found like 5-6 aces that game.
Mm-hmm.
Because he tosses high and he max jumps, and it's like you're just trying to look for it and you can't.
Right. Well, as you continue to play at the high level, the biggest conversations you're going to have in a tournament is going to be the serve. And these tournaments where everyone's are professionals and everyone has their stuff together, you're not going to find a lot of glaring weaknesses as far as hitting range, right? Maybe in the beginning, you're going to be like, oh my God, this guy's he's not pivot jumping. He's got to do this. And I'm just going to stick my left hand there and clamp it. Right. And you hit with both hands anyway. So I can assume that you can block with both hands. So, for guys watching at home, I'm like, okay, he's a lefty. And then the next play, I'm like, okay, he's not. So good. This kid's so good. So, at every level, at the highest level, most of the conversations are going to be about the serve. LMU, I was with John Mayer. You know, we play everybody, and he's one of the best. He's the best. He's probably one of the best 2 coaches in the NCAA for beach right now. He gets all of his recruits stolen by USC and UCLA, and he still finds a way into the NCAA, right? And you got to beat Pepperdine to win that division, right? And you got to beat St. Mary's, who's no slouch either. So, at the highest level, if you remember, we had a conversation about France winning the gold, right, against Russia.
Yeah.
0 reception errors, the set 5 against the best serving team in the world. That's it. That's how you win that set.
That's how you win.
So Pottstown, huh? Go ahead.
No, it's the closest thing to indoor at a high level. Because if you watch indoor, and even though indoor isn't side-out scoring, you know that if I go to any decent NCAA team and I float serve 10 balls in a row, I could have a top-level blocking and defense. They're still going to side out 80, 90% of those balls.
Yeah.
They have to. So you have to topspin. I think Pottstown's the same thing with 95% of the time. If I float serve any guy out there, they're not getting blocked and they're not getting dug. They're scoring that ball on a big court. So you have to serve hard.
Knowledge beyond your years, young man. Knowledge beyond your years. And you know what? I know what people are thinking, so I have to say this to our audience. For those of you out there that talk about how topspin is the easiest serve to pass, I have something for you. Topspin serves are not about fast results, looking for a quick ace to catch you. Topspin serves are about constant pressure, where the serve gets better and stronger as the tournament goes. So you're sitting there putting your hands in front of a serve that you think is easy. Wait for it. Wait for those of you that say it's the easiest thing in the world to pass. 9 out of 10 of you that say that when it's time for you to pass it in the game are going to get aced by that serve probably more times than the people that respect it.
A lot of people that say that too aren't playing the high level top spins.
Yeah, they passing that up and down stuff. They're not passing top spin serves that come down on you like a ton of bricks.
Until you play someone who's like tossing high, contacting high, and spinning it, you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, it's a roll shot until they start hitting 70 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, if I don't get my first step the second he touches that ball, I'm not reaching it.
Yeah. And, you know, for the guys that are doing the Pottstown, man, if you want someone to commentate this year or join your crew, I know you guys have a set crew already, but tell everybody you know a guy. It'd really be worth it for me to make the trip. Like I'm going to nationals for my girls in July, but it'd be nice to make that stop and call some matches for you guys. So give me a call, reach out, come see me. You know, go back on your history. I was there. I played AA in 2002, took fifth, and then played open in 2003 and took fifth. So fifth was the best I could do. You know, I had a partner called Big Evil. He's a guy from Dominican Republic. The Dominicans call him Flaco for obvious reasons, but we called him. He was nicknamed Big Evil, and he was a guy that loved to talk shit. He was a guy. Here's a funny story. You'll love this because you have friends like this, right? He got called because he deep dished the ball, and the guy was like, no. Like, you know how some players, like the players have to ref their own games. They'll be like, no, no. So he's like, no. He's like, what you mean no? He's like, dude, that was a double. And he's like, call my hands again. I'm gonna fuck you up. That's exactly what he said. And the next play, I shoot a ball to the net, and he goes to the net and does this and this. And the ref didn't call it. It was the worst. Dude, somebody called the FBI. This is some catch and release stuff, dude. And the other team's like, dude, you're gonna let him intimidate you? And I'm like, I said, Eugene, that worked. But he said, call my hands again. I'ma you up. Wow.
His name's Big Evil. If he has the nickname Big Evil and he says that to me, I'm like, I didn't see anything.
He'll be in matches like, when this game's over, I'm kicking your ass. Can you appreciate the guys I had? These crazy. Yeah. He was from the South Bronx that learned how to play volleyball, and he's also a Dominican guy. So, and Dominicans are notorious for, right? You're not gonna tell Dominicans not to talk junk because that's their fuel, right? And perhaps on your team that might be their fuel. But the cool thing about you is you got their back either way. They don't have to worry about you double hitting a ball. If they're shouting at a ref or another player, what happens the next play? They need you to bang a ball on two, or they need you to do this, right, with your left, and then do this, you know, on a back one or something, right? The outside blocker jumps at you, back one. Maybe there's nobody up, and you know what? That fire is redirected to you, and that wave, no matter how high that wave gets, will never crash. I promise you. I played on a lot of different teams. That wave will not crash. And maybe you have unicorns. Do you know what a unicorn is? A unicorn is someone that starts emotionally high and stays high, and the wave never crashes. That's a type of player that's rare, and me and you, we got to take him to the lab, right? We got to, examine him like a lab rat and understand how that works. Fallon Funamoana, female player, Eric's niece or cousin, from beginning to end. Who can I come up with a men's player? Ivandro from Brazil. He can go fire from beginning to end as long as he's got a good partner. Do you know what I'm talking about, Leandro? He's like 6'11", and he's got a jump serve that he's a dark-skinned Brazilian cat. And I don't know. I mean, Brazil always has 4 or 5 good teams. I don't even know if he was in the Olympics. I think he was. But, when you have a bunch of teams like that and the country only allows 2 teams, man, it's going to be a lot of unhappy people, right? So good. So you're 17. You're a senior. You're committed to play indoor as a setter. A few things you might want to know about me. I wrote this down. Well, I didn't write this down. See, that's really neat handwriting if I actually wrote this down. So we're going to close up shop because we got to get you fed, right? A kid's got to eat. You're probably eating 5 times a day. But before we go, I have something called a lightning round. Is this something you wanted to say before I went to that? You had a thought?
No, go for it.
All right. So let's put the 1 minute on the clock. And set up my horn. And there we go. All right, ready?
Yeah.
Okay, favorite comedian?
Oh, Bert Kreischer.
Last good book you read?
One of the Percy Jackson books.
Last good movie you watched?
Ooh, I love Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
You could be Peter Parker, dude. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Right. Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Harry Potter.
A beach partner that you desire to play with someday?
Anybody? Phil. Gotta be.
Yes. Favorite sport outside of volleyball?
I like basketball.
Nice. Favorite action film star growing up?
I don't really have one.
Me, I guess I was an Arnold guy. I'm old enough. I go back then, or Bruce Willis. Any favorite conspiracy rabbit holes?
Oh my God! I was thinking about this one recently. Why am I blanking so hard? I think you stumped me.
That's okay. Well,
Wait,
for me,
give me a second. I'm gonna remember this.
I'll
I'm
give you an
gonna remember
example,
this.
and this might help it click in your head. Mine is the JFK assassination. I don't think that guy made the shot. I'm ex-military. I'm a Gulf War vet. I'm also an expert on the M16 and the Beretta. And I'm telling you, as close as that looks, that is not an easy shot to make it a moving target right to left to right.
There was one I was having a conversation about that everyone thought I was crazy. I'm like,
It's not like the moon landing or something, is it?
I don't no. Okay, I think Helen Keller was real. I do not think she did all that shit. There's no way in hell.
So in
There's
other
no way in
words,
hell.
you think she could see? You're
If
like,
she
that
could
chick is
see,
lying.
or they're lying to us.
Yeah.
How do you not see or hear and start talking?
Oh, God. What's the definition of endless love? Ray Charles and Helen Keller playing tennis. Endless love, baby. So, all right, we're about to get out of here, but is there an IG handle or someone that wants to get to know and follow you and find out what you've been up to, your TikTok handle? Because you're a really good content creator, so let's get you some more followers. See what you're up to.
My Instagram and my TikTok and my YouTube are all just my name. Benji, BenjiAndexler, Benji Andexler. You can find me on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube. I think that's all I use. I've thought about trying other platforms, but I don't really do much. I've thought about doing YouTube videos that aren't just highlights, but
Right.
I think I'm gonna stick where I know how to do stuff.
Yeah, and also you have a consolidated place where people can go to, one place, right?
Yeah.
Like this podcast is on iTunes and Spotify because you got to do sound because people get caught in traffic. But I don't have this podcast anywhere else except YouTube and Facebook. I have an NY Varsity handle. But YouTube right now is where it's pumping. Like I had DJ Klasnick on my last episode, and everyone knew where to find it, and 28,000 views. So cool. All right, so my man Benji Andexler, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Benji Andexler might love you guys, but I don't love any of you guys. All right. In fact, I can't stand any of you. In fact, I'm out of here. So for all of you at home, for all of you on your iPhones, for all of you on your pads, for all of you on your desktop, who runs the world, baby? Old school for my man Benji with the Slunks sign behind him. I am Jason DeBeas. This is episode 197 of the Option Podcast. Stay with me. We're going to hit my music and we are out of here. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.